Yeah, it's mindset cafe, we all about that mindset. Gotta stay focused, never settle for less. It's all in your head, how you think you manifest. So get ready to rise, cause we about to be the best. Gotta switch it up, gotta break the old habits. Get your mind right, turn your dreams into habits. No negative vibes, only positive thoughts.
What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Mindset Cafe podcast. It's your boy Devin, and today I'm excited. We got a special guest. We got a innovative student athlete, right? You know, he's not only an entrepreneur, but he's still going to school. He's still doing his thing on the field, and honestly, that is no small feat. So, it's one of those things where you have to realize that if there is a will, there is a way. You just got to make sure that, you really want it that bad. But our special guest today, guys, I want to welcome Walker Ferguson. He is going to be diving into his approach with his meditation app and some other things from the life of a busy student athlete. So, Walker, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to hop on.
I'm excited to be here, and that was one of the coolest intros I've ever seen as well. That was pretty awesome.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So let's dive into your story, man. Let's dive in, starting off, what are you going to school for? I know you play football and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
what's the goal with, school? What's the goal with, athletics and everything?
Yeah, so growing up, I played everything with the ball: football, baseball, lacrosse, basketball, you name it. When I got to high school, I really focused on football and lacrosse. I actually thought I was going to play lacrosse in college, and that ended up not working out just due to some COVID and some stuff like that. And ended up playing football at Wake Forest, majored in economics there, minored in communications. And that's where I met my business partner and best friend, Hampton Tanner, in my freshman year dorm. He was actually my freshman year roommate. And we just formed like a beautiful relationship right away. Knew we were going to do something after college together. Didn't know what it was going to be, but talked about like retail stores, talked about restaurants, breweries, like you name it. It's a lot of synergy. And after that, we went through a time where we weren't playing. We're still on scout team. Things just weren't going great. And that's the first time I really learned how to breathe and what meditation was, what mindfulness was. And that's kind of what sparked the idea for the app through his personal need, where he came to me with the idea. We kind of rolled from there. But the plan after college, to answer your question with the economics degree, is to be an entrepreneur. I have that spirit to find ways to help people live a happier, healthier life.
No, I mean, that's awesome, man. I mean, where did that entrepreneurial drive come from? Because, I mean, people ask me, and I mean, the podcast is something I do on the side, but I have a gym and we launched the franchise aspect of it and everything like that. But like for me personally, I don't have entrepreneurs in my family that like showed me the way. What's your family dynamic like? What do your parents do, and what gave you that entrepreneurial drive?
Yeah, 100%. So my mom's a realtor, residential realtor. So in a way, she has all her own clients. She's a private realtor, so she doesn't like advertise or anything. And that was kind of cool watching her communicate how to become. She's a boss saleswoman, so we got sales in my blood early on, how to talk. And then my dad was in medical sales. They're both self-employed, so they both never worked. They both worked for themselves their whole lives. So in a way, they were entrepreneurs, although neither of them scaled to have hundreds of employees. But I definitely got to see that growing up and kind of what it takes to kind of work your own schedule, but having that mindset of, you got to get things done on your own clock, right? And you end up working, way more hours when you're working for yourself. But, that's kind of what drove it early on. And my life philosophy too is I'll live my life. I want to always be curious, not judgmental, and I always just want to learn, right? And I was fortunate enough to do a fair amount of internships in the summer, sophomore, junior year, the one in the spring when I was still playing ball. And, I loved it. I learned a lot. I just felt that I wanted to continue to explore and like find ways to become more innovative, to help more people. And I really felt like I was kind of compressed with my where I could grow within like the system. And that's kind of what drove me to, want to explore and create things and help people.
No, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, I mean, both your parents, they still had that entrepreneurial, drive, even, they didn't have the scaled side of it. It's still, you got the experience that a lot of people don't. And that's so cool because it's funny. I mean, how old are you?
I'm 22.
See, I mean, one, you got the voice of like a 40-year-old, you got that man's voice, but you got that experience that because you mentioned it already, that working as an entrepreneur, people see on social media nowadays that it's like, oh, be your own boss, work 4 hours, in a week. And it's like, dude, that's not the case, especially in the beginning. And sometimes even ever. When you're an entrepreneur, you're trading a 9 to 5 for a 24/7. Right. So you got to experience that, see the hustle, see the determination from your parents. So that's so awesome that you got that. Do you think that is what kind of influenced you to be your own boss in a sense?
Yeah, I definitely think my parents had a big part in that. I definitely think athletics did too, especially playing at Wake and learning to like embrace the suck and learning like what discipline was, what consistency is, and how those things two mesh together to get to where you want to be. So I think it's definitely a combination through my athletic career as well as my upbringing.
No, that's definitely awesome. So go into the app a little bit, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
no small feat in one, starting an app, and two, even building it out, the innovations and all that kind of stuff. So what was that initial phase for you to start the app? What did that look like?
Yeah, no, 100%. So Hampton essentially called me with the idea. Like I said, my partner and freshman year roommate in February. We had both used the app Calm. As student athletes at Wake, we had a free subscription and we liked how it gave base meditations, base sleep stories. And obviously no one beats like an Adam School or Matthew McConaughey voice. Like they're amazing. But, nothing felt individually or personalized for what I was going through, right? Because we were all going through things. And, every athlete, I don't care if you're a starter, second, third string, whatever you may be, like everyone's going through something. You got presentations, class, school, social life, and there's a lot, right? It's a full-time job. So when Hampton said, we're going to create an app that uses artificial intelligence the right way to give athletes personalized meditation, sleep stories, and what we call meditation plans, which essentially are plans where you can put in a specific goal, right? So I could say, I want to become a starter on my Wake Forest football team my senior year. I'm doing this, this, and this to achieve my goal. And it'll actually break it up into like a step-by-step process for you to see yourself achieving that goal, right? Because as athletes, we know everything starts in the mind. But getting back to the process, once we knew where we wanted to go in the vision on the vision board, life's all about relationships, right? A lot of things really fell into place because I'm not a comp sci guy. Hamp's not a comp sci guy. We're an operation guy. So I took a class at Wake. It's called a military leadership class with Professor Sweeney, who's unbelievable. And he had CEOs, former presidents, like always come in and speak at the beginning of the class, right? And every day after the class, I would just go and introduce myself. Just be like, hello, my name's Walker. I'd love to chat, right? Phone call, LinkedIn, like lunch, whatever it is. One of the ladies was named Miss Pace, who was the former CEO of a legacy credit union. And she connected me with two great men, Mike and Stan Bukovich, Stan Parker and Mike Bukovich at Winston Starts a startup lab downtown. So after that, we were getting kind of pushed in the process in the right direction because I didn't really know what I was doing. Hampton didn't really know what he was doing, but we had mentors leading us in the right direction, right? So from there, like I said, life's about relationships. Me and Hampton took Spanish class at Wake, and we're just awful at Spanish. Can't speak Spanish to save my life. When he transferred to Georgetown, he had to retake Spanish class. And that was a blessing in disguise because the head of the computer science club, Colin Graydon, who's our CTO, he came back to school. He's 29 because he taught himself computer science, just an absolute beast. And Hampton pitched him the idea, and he's like, this is what I want to build this summer, right? So he brought on Gordon, another kid in the club who's very good at what he does. Still a student at Georgetown. He'll be a rising junior. And, over the summer when I was in New York, Hampton, Georgetown, and one was in Jersey, and the other one was at Georgetown, we literally built the app over the summer. So while they were building the MVP, me and Hamp got a provisional patent, trademark logos, formulated a marketing plan, and kind of what our brand was going to be, what our approach was going to be. So after that, that's kind of how the ball got rolling. And then in September, we did our beta testing, brought on a couple more people to redefine the app and make the user flow, the user experience better. And then we got on the App Store November 1st.
Dang, man, that's awesome. Congratulations. You should be proud of yourself.
I'm trying.
So, I mean, what does a typical day look like for you between school training, building, ascending and all these things? Because, I mean, running a business, building an app, like it takes time. And so not putting what you got, you said you're a senior, not putting that on the back burner because that's, just as important. So what does your day look like?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think it all comes down to those two words I mentioned at the beginning: discipline and consistency, and sacrifice too, right? Not going out on Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, like going the extra mile, finding a way to get that extra hour because everyone only gets 24 hours in the day. It's how can you maximize those hours, right? But for me, it would be wake up at 5:30. I'd go in. We'd have meetings in the morning. After that, we'd go straight to practice. Sometimes it would be a lift after, sometimes lifts before practice. But then at noon, I'm about out. At noon, I would go to my classes. It depends on the day, but usually classes were from like 12 to 3:30. So I'd really try to lock in the best I possibly could, and really take notes of the classes, really engage and try to understand what I was learning instead of just being in the class. And I found being present in class helped me a lot because I had a lot more time through the back half of my day to not have to relearn the material because I had learned it from the professor that's actually teaching it, which was huge. And I wish I learned that early on. And then after that, obviously they kind of grab like a quick lunch, whatever's going on. And then I would go straight back home and just start grinding on Ascend like the rest of the day. And then, finding a way, like an hour to read a book, right? Because I love to read. Reading's so essential. It's like a spiritual recharge for me. So I'd read throughout an hour a day. And then when I was not, doing Ascend stuff, I'd make some dinner. And then after that, I read the word, hit a meditation, and I'd go to bed and just repeat. That's it.
No,
So,
I mean, that's awesome, man. I mean, it's funny because like especially in the build phase and in the growth phase and all those things, like your days can get kind of repetitious, and almost like monotonous of just the same thing over and over and over again, even though each day presents its own problems and struggles and obstacles of the business or the app and so forth. But what have you found as some like mental challenges facing being an entrepreneur, as well as the mental challenges of being a student athlete, and how do you kind of recenter yourself or push yourself when you're feeling quote unquote burnt out or overloaded or stressed or whatever term you want to give it?
no, for sure. Starting with the business, as an entrepreneur, no week's the same, right? Every week you got new challenges, you got new obstacles. There's always something new. And I love that. I love the challenge. I love the process, and I love learning, right? I know we talked about that earlier. So that's kind of what really gives me joy, right? And I think it's really important for everyone out there to find your why. Like, why do you do what you do? What's your purpose? And then once you figure that out, you're going to want to get out of bed every day. You're not going to be wanting to drag out of bed because like what you want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Regarding like burnout as a student athlete, that's a really prominent topic too, with everything going on. I think the most important thing is positive self-talk. Understanding that, you are a student athlete, that not like 99% of people, or I don't know the exact percentage, but aren't student athletes, right? It's really hard to get to that level. It's like, you're a winner. Like, you've done something right to get to that phase. And even if something's not going right in the moment, that constant reassurance, building that emotional resilience of like telling yourself, I'm here for a reason. Like, I'm going to figure it out, whatever that may be. And that's what I would say is the most important thing, is that positive self-talk, because I really do believe energy travels, whether the positive or negative. So you always got to feed positive affirmations in your mind to get to where you want to be. And on top of that, for me, with my faith, I'm a Christian guy, like I said, so my foundation is in my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So no matter what's going on throughout the day, if I am in a slump or I am feeling kind of overwhelmed, being able to pray, because for me, prayer is asking God, and then meditation is sitting in silence, listening, and taking that time out of my day to recharge my batteries, right? So I don't feel burnout. There's a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People that I would highly recommend everyone to read. And the last thing he talks about is called sharpening the saw. And that's essentially taking care of the physical components, which is us like working out, the mental components, like reading books, listening, doing what we're doing right now, listening to podcasts, gaining wisdom, the spiritual component, whatever that may be for you. And then, emotional and socially, right? And if you can take care of those 4 components, the other 6 will kind of take care of themselves. So I think regarding the burnout phase is take care of yourself, find ways to recharge your batteries so you don't experience that burnout. That's what I found super helpful.
Have you found yourself, and I'm saying this from firsthand experience, because at the time of opening the gym, it happened, and then obviously realizing it, and then fixing it, and then launching the franchise, it happening again.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get so involved or mentally engaged in like there's almost not a sense of burnout, because you're just like, it's, even though there's obstacles and stuff, like it's so rewarding and it's exciting and all these things, but all of a sudden you start letting stuff go, put on the back burner, whether it's school or whether it is training, like, cutting training a little bit short so that you can go, get to work on, the app and so forth. Have you found yourself kind of catching yourself on, diving into the app more than, some of the other areas of your life?
Yeah, no, that's another good question. I had a buddy that really helped me with that. And he always told me, he's like, keep the main thing, right? He's
Mhm.
like, why did you go here, right, in the first place? You came here to get a high class education, right, at a very prestigious school and to play football, right? So that's super important. So taking a step back, I feel like is very essential too when it comes to time management, right? It's like, yes, like this is super fun. Like I'm on the grind, like I'm enjoying this. I'm seeing progress, but it's like I also have to take care of these other components of my life because that's what got me to this point to be able to get this ball rolling, right? So, I think it all comes back to how you manage your time. And to answer your question, I'd be lying if I said I didn't. I definitely have gotten caught up in that. I mean, ever you get excited and you start doing it, but then, to your point, you look back and you see those other things kind of start slipping away, and you're like, okay, I got to kind of revert, and put a little more time here. So, I think it's kind of just, I mean, it's just life. Like you experience it, you learn, you adapt, and you figure things out.
So I mean, I got a question for you, a little tangent question because
Yeah,
I mean, you're 22. I mean, I'm 33, and I've had some years in the game of entrepreneurship, and I would have said that I was mentally mature for my age, but definitely not at the age you're at. For one, the way you speak, but also two, like your thought process and your, emotional intelligence and everything like that. So you are definitely further in the game than I could say a lot of other 22-year-olds, even 20-year-olds at, with the whole range to 29, right? So do you have siblings,
I do. I have two sisters,
older or younger?
both younger, actually.
That's okay. That's where I was thinking it was from, and this isn't to take away from you whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'm the oldest of three boys, and for some reason, like the oldest child, I feel like has a different drive or a different maturity level. Not all the time, but some of the times of compared to the younger ones, because you have that protective nature. And you saying that you have two younger sisters, I'm assuming that there was some protective nature that did come with that role, if I'm not wrong.
You would not be wrong.
So, I mean, again, nothing taken away from you. Like your emotional intelligence, your intelligence, and the way you speak and hold yourself, I wouldn't have guessed 22, unless I knew ahead of time. So that's just kudos to you, bro. Like
I appreciate it.
you doing this already at the age you're at. Like I can't wait to see where you're at 33. Let's dive into a little bit of the entrepreneur space, right? Taking student, taking athlete off the table, the entrepreneur game, and people already wanting to start a business, starting, anything, it can be scary, right? What are some of the hurdles or obstacles that you faced that you didn't know they were going to be an obstacle until you're already in it? Because I mean, you can plan for all the what ifs, you can plan for, you think you know it all, and then all of a sudden you're in it and you're like, oh damn. You learn real quick what the real meaning of an entrepreneur is. What were some of those for you?
Yeah, I think the first thing, like just starting out, is like, having that belief that, no matter what happens or what, like if stuff doesn't go right, that you're going to figure it out. Right. I feel like there's a lot of people, even like my friends that, started small businesses kind of give up early on because things aren't going well and they kind of just revert that. Right. But like conquering like yourself first to understand that you have to conquer within to basically, portray that outside. Right. Because things aren't always like sunshine and rainbows. But the biggest challenge, or what I would say, the biggest thing I would want to do is it depends on what you want to do, right? If you're a solo entrepreneur or you're going to be with a partner, I think the most important thing is to find the perfect business partner, because a lot of people I've talked to too, even like my dad and his buddies, like if you don't have the right business partner and things aren't going great, like that's a recipe for disaster. So I got very blessed early on to have that relationship with Hampton, because he brought me out of some dark times in my life, and we would literally die for each other, and that loyalty's there and that trust. So that's, I think, the most important thing is finding a partner. But the biggest challenge that I think we faced early on was, one, getting money, and two, finding like the right resources to continue to like scale and grow. It was a really hard process to get a patent, a provisional patent. We interviewed or talked with probably 10 to 15 different lawyers. And a lot of them just either, one, was just way too expensive. Two, didn't know how to essentially do the patent because the AI space is so new. Yeah. So that was a huge challenge. Another challenge too is marketing, like how to stay motivated, right? How to continue to like grow, right? Because you write out a business plan, right? You have your Q1, your Q2, Q3, whatever that may be, right? but then things aren't going great. It's like, how can I revert, or how can I be innovative to get to where I want to be? And I feel like that's such a hard part of being an entrepreneur, because you get addicted to a process and like a system, but it's like you have to be innovative and you have to adapt on the fly to continue to grow and scale, right? So that's something that I found super challenging, and that's why I'm so blessed I have Hampton in my life, because he's like that. He's like, dude, this isn't working. We need to switch this. We need to be innovative here, and then we can grow there, right? Because if I was just me doing it, like we never would have gotten off the ground, because I would have been like, no, we have to do it this way, right? So I think the biggest challenges early on were just finding ways to be innovative, building the relationships, and then timing too, because timing's huge, because you can only talk to somebody so many times and try to get them to respond, but at the end of the day, you don't want to follow up with somebody 3, 4, 5 times and then just piss them off, right? So some just send the balls in their court. But I would say that.
No, I mean, that's perfect, and I think that it is so true. I mean, I was lucky enough to open the business and stuff with one of my best friends as well, and we do complement each other. It sounds like you and Hampton do the same, where you guys both have your strengths, you guys both hold each other accountable, and you guys both are there to lean on each other, but that loyalty and that friendship is there first and foremost. And you guys can separate friendship from business partners, and that's one of the biggest things I think in a partnership is being able to, especially opening with a friend or a family member, is like there's time for business talk, and then there's time for hey, we're just bullshitting, and we could do whatever, right? And not letting those start to bleed into each other, because you guys have a disagreement on business that doesn't really necessarily, you guys aren't friends. Like those are two completely different topics, and learning how to, and that's going to be a challenge. And believe me, I mean, you're still so young in the game of it too, and I mean, so am I. It's like those things are never ending, and making sure that you guys can keep that separation is definitely one of those things where both of you guys will have to work at that. Now, being an athlete and stuff, do you think that has helped your ability as an entrepreneur to stay adaptable? Because I mean, that's one of the hardest things, like you said, from your struggles, is you have a business plan, you have a game plan, you start doing it, and then either shit's not working or you got to make some adjustments, and it's like that's just the name of the game, right? But it's almost like playing in football, and all of a sudden you guys try a couple plays, that's not working. The other team has adjusted, and you guys got to make some other calls and other plays on the fly. Do you think being an athlete has allowed that adaptability to be a little bit more easy for you?
Yeah, I would say, yeah. I think it's allowed me to be a lot more open-minded to finding new ways to be innovative and open to suggestions, especially because, like you said, you never know what's going to happen in a game, and things are constantly changing. So, yeah, I would say yes.
So how do you face a setback, talking about athletes and talking about business, facing a setback or facing, whether it's like, losing a game, an injury, or even a hurdle in business? What are your mental strategies that you stay focused under that pressure, or under that, handling that setback?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I think the first thing is beginning with the end in mind, right? Having the vision of where you want to be, and knowing that, through my faith as well, there are trials, there are tribulations, and, things aren't always going to go according to plan. And that's why they're called trials, right? To get over them, to continue to grow. But the most important thing is beginning with the end in mind, having a clear picture of where you want to go and what like success looks like to you, right? And never letting that out of your brain, right? Not to go on off a tangent, but I had a friend, one of my really close friends. He plays receiver at Auburn now. He was just he's a freak athlete, and he was going to start sophomore year. His name's Horatio Fields, and we were doing drills in the summer, and he tore his ACL, and like it was tough, but essentially watching his process of being like, dude, like I already know what's going to happen. Like I'm going to make it, like I'm going to come back stronger. Like in that positive self-talk, that those affirmations going on in his head, that was so encouraging to me to see him. And then coming back, not playing like even junior year, because he's still coming back from injury, to having like an insane senior year and then transferring to Auburn for like a 5th year and potentially the ability to get drafted next year. But learning from others is huge too. Knowing that, everyone is going to have a setback, right? Whether that be huge, big, small, whatever it may be. But just learning from others, learning their tendencies, and then beginning with the end in mind is important. And keeping the main thing. Like I keep saying that, but knowing why you came there, what you want to do, and having that end goal, that vision in mind.
No, I mean that is so true. I mean, damn, that ACL, that's tough.
I know.
That is tough. Um, you know, it's seeing these things from other people, it gives you perspective change. It gives you perception on, how to adjust those things and really taking it into consideration, when someone faces an obstacle and being able to evaluate that from a different standpoint. So if you were to face that same obstacle or an obstacle similar in nature, being able to already kind of know the solution in mind is a huge, tool that, it sounds like you're really intentional on focusing on others as well. So that's definitely a huge attribute to you. How has your experience as a team player, with sports and everything helped you in the business world with the app?
Yeah, that's been probably the biggest thing is just realizing that it's about the team, right? I'm a firm believer you got to find the who before the what. And when you find the who, the bus starts rolling, right? It's all about the people because one person can only do so much. And if you don't have all the different components, you're not going to grow. And sports taught me that so early on, especially football. It's a game of inches. Every single player on the field, every single player on the team, whether that's scout, whether you're a starter, special teams, whatever it is, everyone has to work together and buy into that vision early on and the team's values to get to where they want to be. So Hampton and I were very intentional about that early on of bringing the right people in, making sure everyone fit the values and they were committed to the mission statement and the company culture. And when you have the right people and the people that are good and can believe in the vision and can do their job to the best of their ability, they're going to continue to grow and they're going to continue to scale for you because they're on your team for a reason, right? They're the who before the what. And sports did a great job of, teaching me that very early on that life's about synergy and you need to do things with other people to continue to grow.
No, that's definitely, yeah, man. Honestly, you're intelligent for, not even just for your age, but, for, I would say anyone in their 20s and 30s, man, like you keep doing what you're doing, brother.
Appreciate it.
With what you meant about team, and knowing it's for the team and it's not the what, it's the who and everything like that. What have you learned, or what are some of the biggest lessons you learned about leadership? Because being a team player is one aspect, but being a leader of the team and still being a team player is another aspect and a whole different ball game. So what are some of the lessons that you learned with, your company and, trying to find the who, but then also keeping all the who's engaged?
Yeah, no, 100%. When I switched to safety my senior year, my defensive coordinator, Brad Lambert, gave me a definition I'll never forget. He said, my definition of a man is how he treats someone that can do nothing for him. And, that's how I want to be remembered. I want to be remembered as somebody that went out the extra mile to help somebody that literally could do nothing for him in return. And that's what servant leadership is, right? And that's how I want to be remembered as a leader. That's my leadership style. So not even keeping people engaged, but like that's obviously important, but that comes with serving them. Like, how can I help Colin? How can I help Morgan? How can I help Vaishnavi with their job? Like, how can I make their life easier and serve them, right? And as a result of that, they buy in more. They have more energy. They want to get the job done. So it all comes down to that. It all comes down to servant leadership and how can I go out of my way, humble myself to help my team continue to grow.
No, exactly. And it also making sure that I would give you this piece of advice is, with that, because everything you said is on point, is making sure that you're painting the vision that, and you may have done it once, but painting the vision and painting the goal for the team of sometimes just the process, right? And, because when you're on the field and you guys are playing, like you guys all can see the vision because you guys are all in it. But with running a business, sometimes it can get a little blurry, or someone may not say it, it might be your business partner, right? And it might be you at some point. So he might have to do the flip side is sometimes recentering your focus on the big vision or the vision of just accomplishing this one task or this one meeting and so forth, because that also creates a huge buy-in from your team to stay engaged, to stay, focused on the task and not lose any motivation during those setbacks or during those times when, some things are out of your control. Because like you said, some things you like, waiting for a patent to get approved, like you can't speed it up just because you want it sped up. Like you got to wait for it to be, processed, approved or denied and move forward once it comes back in. So one thing I do, you got a patent and everything like that. So, you've had extensive research and stuff done on this. What was that like for you? Because I know you spoke to lawyers and trying to get that all done. Was it you speaking to them? Did you have your parents on the line with you? Like, because I know when I was starting off in business, some people hear you're in your 20s and they kind of, talk to you a certain way or look at you in a certain way. And, obviously if it's a phone call, they're not going to assume that you're 20, but, how was that process for you?
No, 100%. Going back to your point too, I love what you said. Little wins are everything, right? And keeping the momentum. So I appreciate that. Regarding the patent process, that was, it was me, Colin, Hampton, and Gordon. Like we hopped on that meeting, and Colin is very smart, and he understood what it would take to build the app, how to implement the text to speech within the AI to be able to give the meditations, to do the pauses. Like he understood the vision for it, and essentially telling that to the lawyer. The lawyer then, the one we ended up going with, which was a referral through the startup lab, who they're very good at what they do. He essentially knew exactly what we were doing, but knew more. He was like, and you should do this and this, and then we could put this in the patent as well, right? And to preface too, we got a provisional patent, so we got that for the year, and then we have to refile the utility patent in May. And if that one gets accepted, that will be for 20 years. This one's for a year, just to preface. But that being said, yeah, we hopped on the meeting, and we met with him. It was all recorded. We asked all of our questions. We prepared a lot before, using our resources, getting together our game plan, as well as using different AIs to ask questions, right, to understand what's going on in the process. And then after that, that was huge, right? When it came to the payments and understanding how to do the invoices and all that good stuff, that's when my mom came in clutch, and she showed me how to do all that good stuff. But regarding the meeting and actually getting it with the processes and the technology and how we wanted it to work, that was all internal.
Oh no, that's awesome. I mean, again, that sometimes that parent help, it definitely helps out a lot. I mean, I know
100%.
you guys had the mentors and everything, which is a huge, huge accomplishment for you guys, because a lot of entrepreneurs at any age feel that since I'm an entrepreneur, I need to figure out everything. And since I was, every entrepreneur, does it themselves, and that's not the case. Like when we launched the franchise, I hired a franchise advisor, and I hired someone that actually launched their own franchise and has walked that walk. Like my whole thing is condensing the timeline to success. And so you realizing that at, this age speaks volumes on your sense of humility to realize that you don't have to know everything. You don't have to solve every problem. You mentioned AI, with the provisional patent and everything. How do you see AI playing a role in not only Ascend, but also shaping the future of just wellness?
Oh, it's taking over. I mean, everything I say is obviously just a prediction because I have no idea, but it's continuing to grow like so much, exponentially every week. And I see it helping in all facets of life, whether that's retail, whether that's wellness, whether that's obviously with Send, because we're literally using AI to provide personalized meditations. And without AI, that's not possible, without actually recording them yourself. But no, I continue to see it continue to evolve, continue to grow, and who knows where we'll go. I think it's going to help out a lot of people. And I would encourage everybody out there to find ways to use AI to get your work done faster, because it really does speed up the process so quick.
So, I mean, with Ascend and everything in the next few years, how do you guys plan on like scaling it? What's the goal? What's the vision?
Yeah, no, 100%. So, right now we're targeting on student athletes because that's, my niche. That's what I was, and that's where my network is. That being said, we're targeting universities, right? Athletic directors, sports psychiatrists, where essentially we get a deal with them, and they pay for the entire athletic department to have a free subscription. So all of those athletes will get, using their .edu emails, like a free membership to Ascend, where they can excel their mental performance, gain a mindful edge, and also reduce stress. But that's the vision right now, as of right now, is partnering with universities to grow and scale. And then there's obviously a lot of plans in the future, but that's within the next year.
No, I mean, that's smart. I mean, and using the resources that you guys have now, even if you can get a coach on board to help make some of those calls and connections, probably would speak volumes, when speaking to other university coaches and so forth. But no, I think that's a great idea and a great way to go about it. It's definitely no small feat, I will say that, but at the end of the day, you got to risk it, to make it really successful and to get that growth. Now, do you have any like personal goals besides, I would say Ascend in the next few years?
100%. I mean, my main goal is just to get 1% better every day. learn something new every day. That's my main thing. Be curious, not judgmental. Always learn something. But on a personal note, I've written out like 30 that I want for my 2025 goals, and I'll translate it in next year. But a lot of just like a lot of stuff for Sen, for exactly how many users I want to have for individual, how many partnerships with universities, how much I want the valuation of the company to be by the end of the year, like all that good stuff. And I'm a paper and pen guy too. Put it in my book as like my bookmark, so I get to read it every time before I go to bed. Program it up here. So, yeah.
No, that's solid, man. So before we wrap up, I want to ask one final question, and this question is a question I ask everyone. And it is your legacy wall, right? It's not a tombstone, it's your legacy wall. So on the Walker Ferguson legacy wall, it's one lasting message. It could be short, it could be long, that you would leave for the up and coming generations, that you've learned along your life's journey thus far.
Give more than you take.
Okay.
That's it. I would like to try to give more than you take. Life's about giving. How can you make someone else's life better? Love and serve others. Help people that can do nothing for you in return, and watch what happens.
That's awesome. Well, where can people connect with you and learn more about, yourself as well as Ascend?
Yeah, Ascend, all of our socials, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, ascendapp.ai. You can search up Ascend Meditations. You can check out our website as well as give us a download on the App Store. About 5 days away from the Google Play Store. But since this is getting released in April, we'll be on the Google Play Store by then.
yeah, definitely. So make sure you guys check that out. Honestly, it's one of those, I think it's going to be a super cool app, and I think it's going to blow up. Honestly, guys, check that out. Check out, Walker Ferguson, on social media as well. All those links will be in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll be in the video description. Make sure you guys share this episode with a friend. If you know someone that's into meditation, if you know someone that needs meditation because they're too stressed out and they're just a really high strung person, just send them this episode. But honestly, I just want to take another second to say thank you, man, for taking the time out of your day to hop on the Mindset Cafe. And, especially with this in personal development, not only is your story a testament to one, perseverance, and two, that drive and motivation that you can achieve multiple things at once. And if there's a will, there's a way, juggling so many things you have going on, but also just everything you got going on in your knowledge with meditation, everything like that is just a true, compliment to the show. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day.
No, I appreciate you. It's a blessing to be on your show, and I really appreciate it.
Well, we'll stay connected, brother. And if you ever need anything from me, let me know.
Awesome.
No negative vibes, only positive thoughts. Cause in the game of life, mindset causes shots. Got my mind on the prize, I can't be